What's up everyone, Humble Farmer Taiki here. So today I'm going to go over how I'm personally farming the Polymarket Airdrop and various trading strategies that you can utilize to farm one of the biggest airdrops crypto is going to offer in the next 6 to 12 months. So let's first discuss the opportunity at hand, and then I'll go over what I'm doing. So recently I've been making a lot more prediction market content on my channel under my alter ego, Oracle Taiki. So he's in the other room right now, betting on Polymarket, so he's not here. But I personally think that Polymarket is one of those things that if you have a smaller portfolio, you should be farming. Not because that there's a 100% chance that there will be a token, but if there is a token, there should be outsized returns on your capital. I mean, even like last year, I barely did anything on Hyperliquid, but I started using the application when it first launched, and then I got a $100,000 airdrop. I wish I held for longer. If I continue to hold, I would have like a $500,000 position right now, but I sold it for like 100K, and then I kind of moved on. But like my speculation around the Polymarket airdrop was kind of, I guess, validated, right? With this news that in the most recent round, there was like this other warrant section, which typically means that they're they're signaling that they're going to be a token. And I know people that invested in this round, and they also think that there's going to be a token, even though nothing is confirmed. So when it comes to airdrop farming, in my experience, I just assume that there will be tokens for tokenless projects. But I'm not going to go out of my way to make minus EV decisions to farm particular things. It's just that if there is a small chance of an airdrop, I might as well use these platforms. And if you think prediction markets are going to grow from here, 10 to 100x in volume or open interest, etc., then I feel like it's a good skill to have, right? To be familiar with all these prediction markets. So that's kind of like the mindset I'm going in with. And I have like various ways to farm this thing. So first of all, let's think about how will they airdrop, if they do an airdrop. And of course, it's very simple. They will likely airdrop to early users with organic activity. So, not wash trading. So if you're buying something at like 90 cents and then you just like dump it immediately and then you have like millions of volume, chances are, there's going to be a way to detect that type of activity. So I think, they're going to reward organic activity, and that's what we should be going for. And I think there's 3 ways to do so. So one is discretionary trading, bonding, and then second is bonding, then the third is arbitrage, and I'll go over each one by one. So discretionary trading is kind of like having a long short thesis on an altcoin. So let's say there's like some Polymarket event and the market's pricing it at like a 40 cents or 40% of like whatever thing happening, but you think it's worth 80 cents, or maybe you think it's a certainty, and then you're making a directional bet on the real probability of these outcomes. And of course, this is like the most organic way to farm this thing, right? However, you could lose money. This is like the, but also, right, maybe Polymarket rewards people that lose money. Who knows, right? I know Hyperliquid people, right? They lost a lot of money trading perps because most people lose money trading perps, but then they got like this 6, 7, 8-figure airdrop, and they don't really care what happened, right? Or they don't really care about the trades that they lost out on because the airdrop more than made up for it. And I've been talking about various trades that I put on my channel. My biggest one so far, or my biggest realized P&L so far, was on the Mr. Beast market. And of course, whenever you do enter trades, you have to ask yourself, like, what is your edge, right? Like, why do you think that the market odds are wrong? And I've typically had success betting on what I think, or what I call rigged markets. And in the case of Mr. Beast, this is only one of my wallets, but I made roughly $8,000 total. And the way I thought about it was, Mr. Beast is Omega rich. He's in the business of making good content. So if he's going to do like a $40 million charity challenge, he's going to complete it, right? He has enough, levers to pull to make sure that, this thing will complete. But he also has an incentive to make sure that, it's going to be down to the wire, right? Because, from his perspective, it's like, oh, like 10 hours left. Can I raise my money, right? And then he can like spin up like all sorts of other videos. So, whenever the market was pricing in, the market was pricing like a 60 to 80% chance for this event happening, I'm like, yeah, like that's wrong. I think it's closer to 100%. So, these rigged markets are when the outcome is already predetermined, but the market is pricing it as it's like not rigged, if that makes sense. So I bet on that. I also bet on Lord Miles. I made like a like a longer form thesis on this market in like my 40K bet, right, on Polymarket. And I used to be like the second largest holder of Yes shares. I think I'm now in like top 10. But this market has gone like a lot of controversy because like a lot of people think he's cheating. So the market is like, okay, like can this guy complete a 40-day water fast in the desert? And my thesis was that, well, this guy can cheat, right? So he has complete control over the outcome of the event. And I think he's incentivized to complete the challenge, whether he cheats or not. So I just like bet on the yes outcome. So that's kind of, like what I think of like these rigged markets. They don't happen all the time. I don't take that many directional trades, honestly. But that's kind of like what I've been doing. So yeah, like Mr. Beast raising $40 million for a charity. That's not a challenge, right? He's going to do it. And Lord Miles completing a water fast challenge. He's probably going to do it, even though I'm not 100% sure. So I might share, or I might sell my shares once it gets like 90 cents or something. But like that's kind of the thesis that I have. Another market I'm looking into, this might be a rigged market. So Kai Cenat is one of the biggest, Twitch streamers. And he's doing like this challenge where he's live streaming 24/7 for 30 days. And he's trying to get like 1 million Twitch subscribers. I personally think this market is probably rigged, right? I think he can pay money to like gift subs and whatnot. And the market's currently pricing at like 70 to 80 cents. I don't have a personal position on this yet, but these are the markets I like to bet on because, will Kai Cenat really do this challenge if he knows he can't pull it off? Probably not, right? He's also in the business of making good content, and maybe this is gonna be like down to the wire, right? He needs like 50,000 subs left on like day 30. It's like, can he pull it off? And then, pew, right? He's probably gonna make it happen. Let's fucking bet on this. Let's bet on this shit. So second strategy that I think is more if you're like a humble farmer, right? This might be more in your lane, and it's called bonding. And bonding refers to the act of buying things that are trading at like 99% or like 1%, waiting for it to go to 0 or 100%. So for example, last week, or I forget when this was, but yeah, there was like FUD, right? That Trump was gonna die, right? Because like his ankles are swollen and like his hand is like black or something. And there was like a market on whether he was gonna resign that day, which I thought was like not happening because I knew he was alive. So this is like not really profitable in a sense, but I bought 4,400 or 4,405 no shares at 99.7 cents so basically I made like a $13 profit on this particular market. But a $13 profit in like a few hours is, it ain't much, but it's honest work, right? And I, spread this across multiple wallets and I made like $40. But, this was like a way for me to build a volume. And, I don't think it's like wash trading because I just waited for it to go to 100%. And, like this is like one easy way, right? So like betting on markets where people are gambling, right? Like why are people like buying the yes shares? Because they will just want to gamble. And if people are gambling, then the odds are mispriced. Then you can just take the other side and like bet on the very, very likely outcome. And the funny thing about is like in these Polymarket comment section, you can kind of like just get entertainment on your own. So there's like this fake Joe Biden account that was like buying yes shares. It's all for good fun, right? And then there's like a fake Kamala account, which I thought was like, these comments are just ridiculous. There are easier ways to get a 4% annual return. That is true. But hey, I'm farming the Polymarket Airdrop. The market that I personally have a position in right now is this one. So the Fed decision in September. I actually paid a really bad price on this. I paid like 98 something cents. So if you look at the CME Fed Watch tool, they're basically pricing in like a 90 to 95% chance that they're going to cut rates 25 basis points, and like very little chance of them cutting 50 bips. So I just bet on the no outcome, that they're not going to do anything. I personally think that the odds of no change is like 0%. So hey, I can just buy these things at 98 cents, and in a few days I can make a 2 to 3% return. So it ain't much, but it's honest work. So I bet like $20,000 on this market. So I stand to gain like $400 or so. Of course, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and then I just zero out. But hey, at least I'll tell myself that I'm farming the Polymarket Airdrop. So this isn't like those sexy trades, right? But it's kind of, I personally think of it as like picking up free money on the floor. Sometimes, it's just like nice to make a 0.1% gain on decent size in a few hours, those things do add up and compound, or even like a 1 to 2% gain over like, a week or two. And in the case of like the Fed market, right, in like the next few days, which, if you annualize, I mean, you can't really annualize these things, but if you do annualize it, it can, be a decent amount. So yeah, it helps me build up a bunch of volume, and then, you can do this with decent size. Yeah, let's bet on this. Let's bet on this. So if you want more, yield farming, airdrop farming, prediction market strategies or farming strategies, make sure to check out the Humble Farmer Army. It's my private Discord. A link will be in the description below. And I share all my trades in real time. So the last thing is arbitrage trading. And I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. Being paid to make markets efficient across multiple prediction markets. And an example is like in sports. These sports games happen every single day, right? So let's say, there's like some, baseball or something, right? There's one team and then there's another team. Let's say on Polymarket, team A, right, their odds of winning is at 55%, and then on another prediction market, the odds of the other team winning is like 44%. So what you can do is you can just buy $100 of each, for example, and for you can buy like $99 worth of like these shares across both markets, and then you're basically guaranteed to make $100, right, or like a $1 profit. So it's not, like literally it ain't much, but it is honest work. And if there are multiple prediction markets that you want to farm, this could be a good way. And also I think this is like fairly organic activity that is probably not going to be detected. And of course, if you're arbitraging, by definition, it is like very, very profitable over time. So I'll put this link in the description below, but there's a site called polymarketanalytics.com, and you can kind of see like various markets, that have, or very like the same markets that are live on, for example, Polymarket and Kalshi. So for example, on Kalshi, the chances of Chelsea winning the Premier League is at 8 cents, but on Polymarket, it's at 7 cents. So, I mean, obviously you have to wait a very long time, and this is just an example. But you can technically buy yes on Kalshi and no on like Polymarket, and then like make a profit, for example. Or you kind of get the point. And Arsenal, right, 35, 36. Yeah. So these things, if you the profit opportunities aren't that crazy. But I mean, theoretically, right, it should make a bunch of money over time. So maybe it's not that exciting, but the goal is to farm volume, right? It's not to make insane amounts of money. And whenever I do, farm Polymarket, I'm just trying to get a bunch of volume without losing money, right? Because the majority of the EV, or the expected value in these trades, is in the future Polymarket airdrop, right? Because not only can I make decent money, right? Maybe not too crazy on prediction markets. Like I put myself in a position to get lucky. Like even with Hyperliquid, I didn't really expect anything big when I first started using it in like March of 2023. But because I was an early user, I just got rewarded handsomely with a really, really big fat airdrop. And hopefully this time I won't sell my airdrop too early. Like I said, don't do wash trading. It's probably going to be easily detected. So like volume alone is not enough. You kind of want to make, like directional bets. All of these things are kind of directional, right? Even like me betting on the Fed market is a directional, even though I think it's what I call bonding. And arbitrage is also like a directional trade. There's like various types of directional trades. So that's kind of what I'm doing on Polymarket. And hopefully, you can get started. I think it's never too late. The best time to get started is now, and the second best time is like tomorrow, right? So just, keep clicking buttons, and, hopefully, we're all going to cook. Yeah. So I do want to talk about one other opportunity, because obviously in crypto, there's so many opportunities. There's so many projects that get, raise money. And there is a prediction market that I've been talking about on my channel for the last couple of weeks, that actually have a points program, and season 1 points ends September 22nd. So, I think, I'm not saying you should just like gamble a lot, right? Or like risk a lot of money. But this is like a very, very easy thing to farm. And if you're watching this video, chances are, you can make the cutoff essentially. So if this does end up getting a lot more traction, then who knows, like maybe the points you farm right now will be worth a lot in like, let's say 6 months or so. So it's called Limitless. It's just another prediction market that kind of focused on short-term price action, raised a bunch of money from, like reputable VCs, let's say, which doesn't mean much. I have been making bets On Limitless, I made a really profitable one that I talked about on my video last week, where I bet $100 on this ETH BTC market, or a bullish ETH BTC bet, and I made a 54x, and I made $5,400 on this market. So yeah, like you can make money on these things, and the way to earn points is to generate at least $200 in trading volume. So like that's literally all you need to do. Of course, you can choose the market that you bet on, and sometimes I do a little bit of directional stuff, and then I buy stuff that's trading at like 99% just so that I can get some points. And season 1 ends September 22nd, like I said, and then season 2 starts right after. I have no idea when the TG is, but hopefully sometime this year. Yeah, I mean hopefully this. Yeah, I have no idea, right? And I guess the one cool thing happening right now is like this thing, like this challenge called Hourly Profit. And I do have a team called the Humble Farmer Army, right? We are the Humble Farmers here, and we are currently second in the week 1 leaderboard. And how this works is you can look at the left side here, where it's gonna be it's gonna be a 2-week challenge, and there's like this score where. Or actually, like the markets that you can only bet on is like these hourly markets. So whether or not Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana will be above or below a certain price. And if you bet and you are right, and you bet at least $10, you are eligible for points. But like I said, you have to bet at least $200 total within or before September 22nd to be eligible. And there are some prizes. So if you're the most profitable trader in week 1, you get 3K. I'm not sure how likely that is, right, for anyone like starting now to like get this thing. But I guess like maybe week 2, which starts the 22nd or the 23rd, I believe, that could be good. And then there's a team bonus. So if you're in the first team bonus, if you're in the team of Ignis or whoever ends up being in first place, you get 2x points. So you are more incentivized to join their team. And then second place is 1.5x. So there really is like no incentive to like join like a 69x or like whoever this guy is, right? I mean, I'm already number 2, so if you want to support the channel, or if you want to just join the Humble Farmers, you can just join the team. Just bet a little bit, and then you get some points. Pretty low stakes, I think. And who knows? Like maybe this ends up being something that you're good at, and then you make a bunch of money, and then you get more points. So yeah, we're number 2. So might as well join me since we're already at the top. You'll get extra points. So yeah, make sure to do that if you're interested. But no pressure. You can join any other team, honestly, right? I just want you to be farming these things, and yeah, and so September 22nd to 29th is season 2 or week 2, but also coincides with season 2. So yeah, I think that's mostly going to be it for me, right? So I think prediction markets very, very interesting. I think they're only going to grow in volume. Kalshi and Polymarket are number 1 and number 2. In no particular order. It's very, very intense, the competition between those two. If Kalshi gains market share relative to Polymarket, Polymarket might be incentivized to do an airdrop. So all of that, to summarize, I think, if you have a smaller portfolio and you want like the next airdrop to farm, I think this is something that could be interesting. I think prediction markets are relatively underfarmed by a lot of people. Of course, you can't just bet like $10 and like expect like $1 million airdrop, right? You have to put in volume and you have to invest time into this. But I do think it's a good skill to have, and I think it's something up anyone's alley, especially if especially if you've been in crypto for a decent amount of time. So that's gonna be it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the Polymarket trenches. Bye bye.